Hi, everybody, and welcome to episode 97 of the I Rock Knits podcast. My name is Cori Eichelberger, and I go by I Rock Knits everywhere on the internet, and I Rock is just Cori spelled backwards. That's my opening. You are closer to me today because my dining room table is full of office equipment because we are getting new office furniture. We're having a built-in bench put in a little window place that's going to have some pull-out drawers for storage and files. And we cleaned out the basement a weekend ago and it was amazing. So much work. But we spent 2 days in our basement going through boxes and books and old materials and car parts and yarn boxes, which I had done most of the yarn sorting earlier in April. But we took 2 truckloads of clothing and items to donation, and shoes and boots and coats. Oh, we just had piles of things down there that needed to be taken care of. And so we got that all cleaned out. And then in that process, we were trying to kind of scale down some of the files that were in the office. And it just feels so great. During that process a weekend ago, I put some area rugs. We have big area rugs, and I got new ones for my kitchen. I think I've shown them. I got bright colored rugs for my kitchen and my front door over the last few years. And so we had put those 8x10 rugs that were on our hardwoods, and the one on the porch and the one in the office in the basement. So we have 4 rugs in the basement rolled up that someday we thought, you know, Kylie might use, whatever. She's not going to use them. So I put those on Facebook Marketplace. And then while I was at it, I said, we need to get rid of the desk and the credenza because we're getting a new desk built and a matching credenza that's going to match this built-in the office. Our drawers on our credenza weren't pulling out anymore. You know, the furniture was nice enough 15 years ago, but with hard use, the drawers, the front of the desk was all dinged up and it needed a refinish. But since we were going to get this new piece anyway, so a lady came last night to pick up the desk and the credenza because I got rid of that, and we got rid of 2 rugs yesterday, so we just have 2 left. And so we had to move all the office equipment, the computer, the TV, the keyboard, the tower, all that stuff, the printer, out of the office. And so we set it up on the dining room table temporarily because the new office furniture will be done about the 30th of May. And we want to have those carpets cleaned in there because they've never been, none of that stuff's ever been moved. We have 2 chairs in there, and we have, right, like a little bench in front of the window now. So I am pushed up against a printer and a computer and a TV and a tower that I can't push back any farther on. I think it's okay. I jiggled stuff around, but usually I feel like you're not quite this close to me. All that to say that we are cleaning out at the Eichelbergers. Kylie has a whole mountain in one corner of stuff that she doesn't have time to go through until after she takes the bar in July. And she doesn't want to do it anyway. And so we sorted some linens upstairs in the closet. We had been stacking linens. And when I had everyone here for Shepherd's Harvest, Ross had said, we have to go through that. I couldn't find the flat sheet to match the one for the daybed and the towels. So we sorted. I ordered new towels. Because some of ours were just getting threadbare that we use in the master. And so we're going to downsize those to be lake towels because we have a box of towels that we take to the lake when we go fishing. And then those are going to become rags. All the things, right? So I feel like I'm a little bit in upheaval here. I did go to Sioux Falls this weekend to see my parents. So I'm going to tell you all about that on this episode. But what am I wearing today? I put on my AttaGirl. I wore this to knitting a week ago. And this is the longer version, and gosh, this is a fun sweater to wear. It's super stretchy. You know, this whole lace pattern is only yarn over knit 2 together for the whole thing. And you're holding DK weight double or using chunky, light, bulky yarn. So you could do it in that. And I have, 3 of these. I wore one a couple times ago, but gosh, they're just so comfortable. The stockinette sleeves are easy. You can make them any length you want. Anyway, so I thought, well, I'll just throw that on. I have a little t-shirt on, and I was doing some stuff this morning. I donated some knitting books to the Textile Center where the Minnesota Knitting Guild meets and has a library. And so when I had gone through all my books that were in the family room in some shelving, I offered them to some knitters. I took them to, they came over and we went through books. And then what was left, I had 2 boxes left of knitting, kind of pattern books, knitting books. And so I called the librarian of the Textile Center and we set up a time. So she picked up those this morning. So those 2 boxes have been sitting by the front door for 2 weeks. And now all my samples that were in the office and some of my knitting bags that were in the office. And then like, you know, the desk drawer that has like the tape and the scissors and the paper clips and all that. I had to put that in a box. That's on the floor. I tripped over that this morning. There's a big piece of glass here because we had a piece of glass on the desktop, but it never covered the whole desk. It was for an old desk, so it only covered part of the desk. So there was wear on one part of the desk. And the neighbor boy and the dad came over last night to help Ross lift the desk because the desk was a big center of the room desk. And we couldn't donate it. We called around and they'll only take smaller desks at most of the places because people who are looking for desks at like a thrift store don't have room for a big desk, office desk. I mean, we barely have room in that office. So yeah, everything's in kind of uproar, turmoil around here. It's just, I know you can't see any of it, but it feels a little crazy. But so I'm wearing my AttaGirl. This was made with Leading Men Fiber Arts DK. Held double, so you get that marled effect, but you can do it in a solid. There are quite a few projects out on Ravelry, so if you want to go take a look at that, you can. I read 4 audiobooks this weekend. Of course, I drove to Sioux Falls and back, which is 4 hours southwest of me, and it's boring. It's farm country. There's not, I drive an hour and go through a big town, drive another 45 minutes, go through a big farming town, so not a big town. Then drive another 45 minutes, go through a big town, get on the interstate that runs I-90, runs all the way across. Then I get on the interstate at Worthington, which is where my mom grew up, and head into Sioux Falls. So, you know, it's just kind of boring. And thankfully, a friend called partway through my drive and talked to me from Windham to Worthington. So thanks, Sarah. Because, boy, I was getting tired and just kind of bored. I was listening to my book, but, you know, no one in the car was by myself. So Sarah called, and so that was really nice. The books. Audiobooks of the week, 4. The first one I'm going to talk about is Firekeeper's Daughter. Wow, was that amazing. I have a little note here that was Reese Witherspoon's audiobook, Sunshine Book, YA pick. Sorry, dog interruption. He wanted to be under the table and by my feet, and there's not room under the table in here, so he's there, but we had to do a little rearranging there. So sorry, audiobooks. Reese Witherspoon picked this as a YA book. I'm not sure I would have known it was a YA book. I think sometimes the YA books are only marketed that way because the main character is under 18 or a youth, considered under 21 or whatever. This is fascinating. It's so good. Read it. Please read it. It's written by a Native American author about the reservation in northern Michigan on the water. Sault Ste. Marie is a part of it. If you're familiar with that Upper Peninsula, the reservation police get involved in a situation, and then she talks a lot about their traditions of the Native Americans in just the narrative. It's just woven in super seamlessly. It's really well done. The story is fairly fast paced. You want to know what's happening. I thought it was just excellent. And then you get that whole, Native American tradition piece in there. I'm sure it's going to win awards. It was really well done, actually. Okay. 2021 Kids Indie Next List Selection, Amazon Best Book of the Month for March, Entertainment Weekly Most Anticipated Book of 2021, Pop Sugar Best March. Okay, so you need to go read this. If you're a reader and you just love reading everything, it has to do with the Ojibwe, the LeBlanc, which is the Sisseton, Wahpeton, Dakota tribes, And I grew up near Sisseton. I was born near Sisseton, South Dakota, and Dakota. So it was fascinating for me in that respect too. So highly recommend. Then I read One Italian Summer, and I read it in a day, and it was 6 hours audiobook, and it was lovely. And the entire time you think you know where it's headed. I would call it maybe a beach read, but it was a little more in depth than fluffy. Sometimes beach reads can just be really fluffy. Just lovely. She decides to go to Italy, and there's a death and a divorce situation and stuff going on, and she bought these tickets to go with someone, and then she just goes by herself, and it was just a lovely story. It was a perfect between if you have heavy reads or reads that are harder for you to kind of be with, and then this one was just lovely, by Rebecca Serle. Really recommend her. Then She Was Gone. That was fascinating to read this because it'll be quicker than me trying to say it. 15-year-old Ellie Mack was the perfect daughter, beloved by her parents, teachers, friends. She was days away from idyllic summer, and then she was gone. Now her mother, Laurel Mack, is trying to put her life back together. It's been 10 years since her daughter's disappearance, 7 years since her marriage ended, and only months since the last clue in Ellie's case was unearthed. So when she meets an unexpectedly charming man in a cafe, she is surprised at how quickly their flirtation develops into something deeper. This takes place in the UK, and she does meet this man and his daughter, but there's a kind of that mystery in the background of her daughter's disappearance and what happened to her daughter. The book was 10 hours, so didn't take too long to read it. And so I had a couple mysteries in there, and I don't always have mysteries. A lot of times I just read dramatic narrative. That was really good too. And then the last one, have to say, Invisible Life of Addie LaRue finally came to me on Libby. People have been telling me about it forever, and I didn't know if I'd like it because I thought it was going to be magical realism. And so do I want to read a story about a woman who lives 300 years, right? Like I'm just not sure I'm going to like this. I went in with a chip on my shoulder, right? I don't know if I'm going to like this. And it took me a little bit, and then I was hooked. And then I was like, I get it. Okay, everybody, I get it. It was so good. The storyline that takes place, you would call it, kind of a time travel or whatever, as she goes through these lives. And she tells you the story of her life in snippets. So she goes back to the 1700s and then to current day, 2014, and then back and forth. And she's telling you the stories of the people she meets. She's invisible to everyone after 24 hours. So every day for her, she has to start over because she makes a deal with the devil. And then he visits her on the anniversary of each year that they made the deal. And he's waiting to take her soul. And she's decided not to give it to him. It was really well written, excellent, well done. So I'm sure like all of you are like, finally you read that, Cori, but I just had not gotten around to it. So thank you all for continuing to remind me about that book because it really did end up being quite good. And so now I'm listening to the second book in that series, The Court of Mist and Fury. I started that on the way home yesterday, and I got 5 hours in, and I couldn't stop listening last night. And then this morning I got up and was listening because it's a 23-hour one, so I'm gonna have to not watch TV and make sure that I just have it on because it's due back in 6 days. So it's been waiting for me on Libby, and it came out in 2018. Yeah, it came out in 20-something. Of course it did. 20-something. It came out in 20-something. There are 5 books in that series. A Court of Thorns and Roses, 2015. A Court of Mist and Fury, 2016. Then Wings and Ruin, 2017, 18, and then 2021. I can't believe that she wrote a book every year in those first few years and got them published yearly because they are so long and so in-depth and have so you know, the explanation of the world and the fairies, and I am really enjoying this, but the fact that that woman could put out that much material. I do see that there are a couple of other series that she has done now since then. So let me know in the comments if you've read other books by, what's her name? Sarah something. Sarah Moss. Yes, Sarah Moss. If I should sign up on Libby, put those on hold, the other series, if they're as good as this one, because I'm really enjoying it. And I am not a, you know, science fiction, you know, imagination stuff. That's not usually what I like to read, and these are quite good. I'm really enjoying it. So moving on, let's do the recipe of the week. We are going to have shrimp and crab enchiladas this week. I have a recipe that is just super easy. You just make a filling, roll them up, and put this kind of cream sauce over the top. So you have shrimp and crab meat, and then queso fresco. You can use jalapenos, manchego cheese, and then crema. You've got cumin, cilantro, onion, some sherry or beer in it. I've made this one before, and my husband, usually, he's not a big drinker, but he will have a beer in the fridge now and then, so I can say, hey, I'm gonna open a beer. And then it's got red and green bell pepper, enchilada sauce, makes 12. I usually half the recipe. It's a recipe I got from the company who makes all the Mexican cheese and stuff. I find it really good, and it's different from a traditional taco flavor, right? Because it's shrimp and cream instead of quite so much hamburger and meat or beef or pork. So yeah, so what we're gonna have it. I'll put it in the show notes. I will link it and to the website, and then I'll also I'll copy and paste the recipe into the recipe thread in my Ravelry group. All right, I've got 2 sweaters this week to share with you. The first one is going to be this little vest. It is originally the Rib Tickler Vest, and it is all garter stitch, and this is how I learned to do short rows. I took this as a class, and there's a line right here, and I think you can see it. There's a line right there where you are turning short rows in garter stitch, which not everybody knows how to do. So I took a class from my mentor Rosemary back in the day, and then this pattern was available on the Schoolhouse Press website. So it was originally by Elizabeth Zimmerman. It was in one of her books, and then Sidna Farley, who was a designer back in the day, she lived out in Colorado. I met her at a yarn store, and she was friends and knew my mentor Rosemary Cosell. So she wrote a modified version of it for Knitters Magazine, and that's what's linked on Ravelry. So the Schoolhouse Press one isn't linked that I could find, but the Rib Warming Trio, it was in Knitters Magazine in the fall of 1997. It's an Aran weight vest, and it's a fascinating construction. That, you know, the patterns that Elizabeth Zimmerman did, that, you know, the little jacket that you fold, it's kind of an origami fold that you can make for a baby. If you haven't looked those up, especially if you're a newer knitter, because I feel like what I would call old school knitters, you know, lived by Elizabeth Zimmerman, right? We lived by her percentage system. That's how we learned techniques and things. And Sidna Farley wrote this called Rib Warming Trio. And this is Sidna's adaptation of the rib warmer. And so it uses a size 7, 8, or 9 needle, depending on the weight of yarn you're using. And it's just a really interesting, fun knit, great construction. I don't know that it's really the style for someone to wear a short vest like that anymore. But I wore it for years, and then it's got this little placket here that has a little silver button at the top. But if you've never kind of looked at those patterns, I thought it would be more interesting for me to link a few of those types of patterns by Elizabeth Zimmerman, where, you know, she had the Einstein coat and the little kids sweater. I've knit a number of things from her, so that might be some like a little hole you might want to go down in kind of take some time to look up those patterns because the construction was so fascinating, right? It was early knitting where even back in the day, I'm not even sure that there would have been circular needles to knit this stuff on. So the construction needed to be different so that you didn't have, because you're working down and across the back and then up and around and then just seaming at the shoulders. So really interesting, fascinating construction. Maybe not something everybody wants to knit. But then the second pattern that I'm just going to go over today is, this is my new Feather and Fan. It is by Mama Christa, Stephen B's mother. Stephen B's mom, Stephen B, the local yarn store owner here in Minneapolis. If you're unaware, he bought a firehouse off of 35th in Chicago and put a yarn store in it. And so it's in kind of the heart of the South Minneapolis area. And his mother owned a yarn store in Wisconsin. So he grew up in a yarn store. And then years later, after having done, he worked as a fashion designer, and then he came back to Minnesota with his sister and opened the Yarn Garage, and then what became Stephen B. And his mother had some of the older techniques that she would write some patterns for, and she would teach. And Mama Christa's failing right now. So if you have a praying heart, if you could, pray for them. I think she's 90, and she's still living with Stephen, and he's taking care of her. And when I saw him at Shepherd's Harvest, he said, it's time. She's really failing. And he's taking care of her, which I don't know how he's doing that, keeping the yarn shop open. So probably really good staff, people helping him out there. But I always wanted to knit this because Mama Christa wrote the Feather and Fan. And there are a lot of Feather and Fan sweater patterns out there, but I had these cotton yarns, and I wasn't really sure if it was going to go together. But doesn't it look like Cori, right? So we got some orange, and then some rust, and then pink, raspberry, and lime. I just had random skeins. The whole thing is Feather and Fan. I did make a bigger size because I wanted it to kind of hang on me and be wide enough to go over my current hip size, my current rear end, which is bigger than it was before. So I did go up a size. So to me on the mannequin, it looks a little big, but yeah, I have not blocked it because I don't want it to grow too much. I think I'll throw it in. I think what I will do is put it in the washer and then the dryer, because it's the Cascade Ultra Pima cotton that's washable and dryable. It'll just become softer and softer over time, and it probably be tunic length. But anyway, I thought, well, it's kind of that old shale pattern, right, from back in the day. If you're old-fashioned, older knitter, you recognize those patterns that were unique at the time. And my friend Mary knitted, and so then I asked her, I said, how does it fit? Did it stretch out? Whatever. And so, yeah, I thought I'm just gonna share those two. I have not worn this yet. Share those two when they're in the bag, and then you go and open the bag and you have something that is half done. So I've been going, or 3/4 done. I've been going through more and more stuff to just take out things and try to finish them up, get things finished. Yeah, so there, you've got 2 sweaters of the day for this week. So I'm almost done that new bright pink colorway. And for those people that were on the Zoom last week, I've had 2 knit-along Zooms, and so that's been really fun. I'm going to say hello to some of the people that were on the last 2 Zooms. I had to move Friday's Zoom to Thursday because I got called home. Well, not called home, but I needed to go to Sioux Falls, and so I didn't want to have the Zoom at 4 o'clock till 5, because then I would be driving by myself later on Friday night, and I just didn't want to do that. I wanted to leave in the afternoon. So I moved it to Thursday. So I know that there were some people that just couldn't get on, but we did have a smaller group, but it was really nice. I mean, everybody got a chance to share what iRock Knits Designs pattern they're knitting. And if you have not looked at the prizes I have, my gosh, you guys, I have a full Carbons needle set. I have, I don't even know, 7, 8, 9, 10, maybe 12 bags to give away. I have yarn that has been donated. I have a bag from Awesome Granny, Bags by Awesome Granny. I should show that one. Okay, remind me to get back to the Legacy Park shawl. This is the bag by Awesome Granny. Look at that. If you are a sock knitter, she has the best fabrics. Just so cute. So she sent this, and that is going to be a prize, but she also gave you all a coupon code. So you can use IROCK20. So IROCK, one word, 20. Put it on the screen. For 20% off everything in her Etsy shop. Is that not great? And her floral bags, you go look. Even if you don't want to buy one, go look at her floral bags. They are stunning. I have that embroidered denim bag from her. It's one of my favorite bags. It's got that kind of embroidered, those flowers on it. If you've been watching for a while, you'll remember. But I just have so many prizes now. Yeah, I have a orange canvas backpack. Let me see if I can grab this. Yes. It's stuck. I have an orange canvas backpack that I am donating. It's never been used. It's just lovely. It's for carrying all your knitting stuff at an event. And then I have this one, which is one of those pop open ones from Chelsea Yarns. It's got a little piece in it. I mean, then we have the 7 bags from Sandy, and I have the little bags from Shepherd's Harvest. I mean, and honestly, so far on the 2 Zooms, everyone's going to get a prize because I keep getting so many prizes from people, and there aren't that many people participating or who have finished anything, you know? And so I think your chances, go knit a hat real quick. Go knit one of my hats. Or if you're a huge sock knitter, go knit a pair of my socks. So that has been really fun. I am going live on Monday, May 30th, Memorial Day. Is that the 30th or the 30th? At 8 p.m. at night, or 7, 8 or 9 p.m. at night. I'm sorry. I would get up, but I don't even know where the sheets are because we put them in cardboard boxes, all my files. So Boston Jen, the Down Cellar Studio podcast, has a summer knit along all summer long, and you can finish all your whips and get credit. And she's got great prizes. It's called the Splash Pad Party, KAL. You can go over on Instagram and just Google it. Even if you're not on Instagram, you can go to your computer, type in Instagram, and then put in, Boston Jen, put in Down Cellar Studio, put in Splash Pad Party, and you can go look at that. You can also just Google it, and it will take you to her Ravelry page where there's a descriptor of how to participate. You just, basically, you sign up and you post your projects. She's got a great thread that's super active on Ravelry. She's got a website, so you can go look at that if you're not on Ravelry. But yeah, so I sponsor every year her 2 events, the Splash Pad Party and then the Pigskin Party, which she runs knit-alongs through that entire time. And then she gets sponsors, people who pay or donate prizes. And so she had an opening. We're going to be at the lake for Memorial Day. And so I didn't sign up for a time slot. And then she sent out a thing that she had a couple of open by then. And then she said, the whole hour is yours, which isn't a problem, right? I know I can talk for the entire hour, but I'm going to come up with something fun to do during that hour. I might give some patterns away. I'm thinking about doing we'll be on Zoom. So I'm thinking about doing like a random number generator and just give some of my patterns away just to make it fun. I might give away a Knit Words book, something like that. Okay. I had to edit out some stuff because I figured out that I kept her email in my phone, even though I printed it out and I don't know where the sheet of paper is. I am 8 to 9 p.m. after Shayna. You should go watch Shayna at 7 p.m.
Eastern Standard Time on Monday. So it'll just be an hour earlier for me in the Central Time Zone. But the whole splash pad party list of people for that day, it starts at 11, and you can be on Zoom knitting all day on that Monday if you just want to listen and, join the Zoom anytime. So you could go, the password is knit on Zoom to get in, and you can just go over and sign up to get the link to the Zoom. So I'm glad I thought that enough to look so that you would know. So yeah, I'm going to do that. So that will be kind of this week's Zoom, because we're leaving on Thursday. So that is going to be crazy. We're leaving on Thursday to meet. We have to miss the traffic. So in Minnesota, Memorial Day weekend sets off everyone's going north, because we're the land of 10,000 lakes. I know a lot of you aren't even in the U.S., you would know that. So Minnesota is the land of 10,000 lakes. When the glaciers came through, they left a lot of holes that filled with water. So every neighborhood in Minnesota has a pond. I mean, they build the neighborhoods around ponds. Like we call Shrek Pond down here on the corner, because it's on our side of the road and the golf course is across the street and it turns green. I don't know what they treat with. It's algae. Anyway, so we call it Shrek Pond. But then we have a little lake, Church Lake, which is right over here. So every house that I've ever lived in Minnesota, I think most Minnesota people live on, near, or by a lake. And then there are ponds everywhere. So yeah, everyone goes up north because of all the lakes. We have beautiful fishing lakes. Ross was fishing this entire weekend when I was gone. They caught 50 walleye in one day, he and his brother. And we have a slot limit in Minnesota, and so you can only keep fish that are a certain number of inches. So if they're too little, you can't keep them. And if they're too big, you can't keep them. You have to throw them back, because the big fish spawn and make more bigger fish, and that's what they want to encourage. So you can only keep fish. But they were catching fish on Thursday. They were in their winter coats, because we had such a late winter this year, one of the latest on record. The ice did not go out of the lake, so the lakes haven't warmed up. And I've talked about it before, but we fish on Lake Winnebagosh, and it's a giant lake. You can't see across it. I mean, when you're on the shore, it looks like the ocean, because all the ways you look, you can't see across it. It's huge. Anyway, so they caught so many fish, and it was so much fun. They caught perch and walleye. He was calling as I was in Sioux Falls. And they were cold. It was really windy one day, so then there was no bait, so that was interesting. The minnows start to run after the ice goes off the lake, and the Native Americans, because there's reservation land in northern Minnesota, and they own some of the lakes, and so they can trap the minnows. So that is a occupation where they trap minnows and sell them to the bait stores. And there was no bait, because the minnows had barely started running because the water was still so cold. So my husband and his brother had postponed 1 week. They didn't go for opener. They went the week later. And they just had an amazing time, just so much. And fishing in the spring is my husband's number one, thing. That's all he looks forward to all year. We'll go 3 or 4 times. So we're going up for Memorial Day. So we will leave on Thursday and then come back on Monday, and just in time for the splash pad party. But I did have a couple of questions and talked to someone on my Zoom about the tab cast on for the Legacy Park shawl. So the Legacy Park shawl is mostly stockinette. You have an I-cord edge, which is knit, purl, knit, purl, knit. You can all do that, and then a yarn over to increase it. So that stuff's super simple, and then it has these little flowered rows every so often. The hardest part of the whole shawl, which I talked about, is this little I-cord tab setup, which you don't have to do. You can just cast on if you don't mind having a little divot at the back neck of your shawl. But in order to make that seamless, right across the top there, see, this is where the yarn overs start. To make that seamless, I used a Judy's Magic cast on of 10 stitches. And what you want to do, if you knit a Judy's Magic cast on or the you know, Portuguese wrap, one would work too, I suppose, is that you want stitches to be able to go both ways, like on a toe of a stock. The Judy's Magic Cast On is like the opposite of a Kitchener, right? So a Kitchener closes a seam in pattern and makes it flat, and Judy's Magic Cast On starts that seam so that you can go both ways, down from the cast on both ways. So that's all it is that there are stitches. Where's my center? Here it is. There are stitches here, and you want to be able to knit this way and knit this way. And then and it becomes, so that's the trickiest part. And there's a video in the pattern to show you how to do it. It's going to take you 5 minutes. I've talked about it before, but we did have someone who was knitting the shawl, and she said, yeah, you know, you look at it and you're like, oh, it's a little futzy because you're just starting. But you hold 5 of the stitches off, and I put them on one of these little, I put 5 of my stitches on this instead of on a spare needle because they're only going to be sitting there for a minute, right? So I just clipped 5 of the stitches, then worked on the other side, and then picked up around, and off you go. If you've never done a garter tab, that's what it's similar to, a garter tab, except it's not in garter stitch because Cori doesn't like garter stitch very much. So it's this I-cord, and it makes it seamless all the way across the top, which is super nice. I mean, a very finished edge. But I just thought I would share that because I am at the very bottom edge of my shawl. I'll show you the right side. Let's show you the right side. So I'm doing the I-cord bind off, which is, I'm just using a double pointed needle over here because I find it easier. I could be using the other end of this needle, but when you first start, I don't know, I just found it easier to slide it back and only have a little bit of needle in my hand. So there's your I-cord bind off across the bottom, so it matches the top. So I am knit, purl, knit, purl, knit 2 together through the back loop, slip them back over. Knit, purl, knit, knit 2 together through the back loop, slip them back over, knit, purl. So and I'm halfway through, and I probably did it for, I don't know, 40 minutes last night, and then I thought, oh, you should go to bed. And we were doing lake laundry and Cori being gone laundry, and so I was folding some clothes and stuff, and so then I thought, yeah. So bottom of it is just chevron mountains, but that did come up on the Zoom, and so I thought, oh, I've got my shawl right here. I will share that with you. The rest of the shawl, this is my second time through it, and boy, was it enjoyable to knit the second time through because I knew exactly what I was doing. I didn't have to count stitches because it was just, right, like I just know what I'm doing now, and it was just such an easy knit. Then when the first time I did it, I was literally writing the pattern. So, yeah. Join the knit along. Come join the knit along. It goes through the end of June, so you still have 40 days to knit something, even if you're super, super slow knitter and don't have a lot of time to knit. I have a number of patterns that you could get done really easily in 40 days. So I just have so many prizes. It's been so much fun to meet people. Go over in the Ravelry group and tell me if you need help picking yarn or a pattern, or like I did have someone the other day say, I'm already in doing a test knit and I'm in another knit along. Cori, what's the easiest thing that you did? You know, your easiest pattern so I can join. And I said, it's the beginning knitting Aran hat, right? It's an Aran weight beginning knitting hat pattern that's up on for sale. It's what I teach the beginning knitters, and you don't have to do a folded brim. You can just do a little bit. And so you could make a hat in a couple of days out of Aran weight on a bigger needle. I think I use an 8 or a 9 needle even, and have a present done for someone for the fall or winter. So that would be my probably number one. If you want to knit something that is just fun but doesn't take a lot of energy, the Cattywampus cowl is super simple. You can just make it short. You don't have to make it long. That's 1 row of lace and then 1 row of knit. 1 row of lace, 1 row of knit for the whole thing. And it all stacks, so it's really easy to see. My winter sunset cowl, a few people are knitting that. That's an easy lace pattern with some purl rows in between. So if you have a 5-pack mini skein set, that's a pretty popular one that a couple people are knitting on. And then I have all the socks, right? I have tons of pairs of socks. That's another thing that came up on the Zoom. If you haven't watched, I recorded the Zooms and put them up on YouTube. And I'm sure if you subscribe. If you've subscribed, you would have gotten a notification that, or it would have come up on the front page of your YouTube that I did put those out there. But if you're not going to watch those, it did come up. It did come up that someone said that they were going to knit my Mr. Tom's Field socks. And I said, thank you. Those socks got no love when I put that pattern out. I mean, a couple of people, and it's a diamond on the top of the foot with pearls. So it's a textured stitch pattern written for fingering weight yarn. And we played ball in Mr. Tom's Field when I was growing up. It was across the street. I've talked about it, but my dad would go over with a riding mower and mow a diamond for us in a pitcher's mound. And we'd play kickball and softball and wiffle ball with all the neighbor kids. And so the socks have a diamond shape on the foot and on the cuff of just as a reminiscence. And that, that's the story. So if you grew up playing a game on a diamond, anything, if you played softball or baseball or kickball, that's what that pattern is reminiscent of. And then someone else said, oh, I forgot that was the story for those socks. I should look at those socks too. So we did just talk. I talked a lot, but I always talk a lot because I miss seeing people still. I mean, we're still not, people are still not out and about, and I'm not teaching as much. Although I'm going to be teaching a bunch more. I'm going to talk about that too. So I did talk a lot because I miss talking to people, but we just had a lovely time. Some of you are so kind. I got the nicest email yesterday, and I won't share who it was from, but basically she said, Cori, I know you think that you share stuff with us too much, or that your stories go on or whatever, but you had shared that when you got COVID, your ribs, you had back pain, rib pain. And she said, my husband had a hospital stay, and he came home and they had COVID people had had COVID in the hospital. And she thought, oh, I'm so glad we got him out of there. I think it was a surgery. And she said, we got away with not getting COVID, getting exposed. And then 3 days later, her back started to hurt and she felt like she got a cold. And she said, because of you, I went and did a COVID test and we both tested positive. And because of you, we both were able to get the antiviral. And like that could have happened in her life and she never would have had to tell me. But remember when I had COVID, I was telling everybody, you guys, it started with just terrible pain, just terrible rib pain and back. And I didn't know that was a possibility. And so I want to thank you. You know who you are, who sent me this lovely email and said, keep sharing, Cori, keep sharing things because you never know who it might influence. So that was just lovely to get that, because I did share that, and not everybody wants to hear about your being sick with COVID, right? So I'm sure I waved it off as, well, I'm telling you guys too much information again. So that was really nice to get that little note from her, and I'm so glad they're doing well, right? That they got the antiviral. That antiviral was not available, but I had a friend in my knitting group who got the antiviral. Then her husband got the COVID a few days after her, and she said it changed from one day to the next. The antiviral made her feel so much better. So anyway, okay. I have a few things more to go over, and we're almost an hour in. I have had a couple of interruptions from the dog, etc. But I have check these out. Oh my gosh, they're so awesome. So often. One of my favorite things to knit, and I don't say it very often, is mittens. I love knitting mittens. They're a small project. I like knitting mittens more than socks. I don't know why. Probably because it's not fingering weight. Maybe. I don't know. Kylie reminded me, Mom, you used to always just knit mittens. You were always knitting mittens. And so I had a box of alpaca yarn that I got from back in the day from a farm. So one of the things that I've been doing is going and looking at my stash on Ravelry and looking at the oldest stash I own. What is some of the first yarns that I bought that I have yet to knit with? And I've talked about that before, where I find something. So I just knit with that red and white Tweedy. Just got out that red and white Tweedy Rowan yarn, and I'll have that sweater on the podcast at some point here. But I had this Wild River Ranch alpaca. I had like 5 skeins, little skeins, not big skeins, of this alpaca. And I think I got it at a fiber festival. So I had like lime green, yellow, red, purple, brown, and this cream. And I didn't know what to make with it. And sometimes there are some wiry hairs in alpaca, and it's not always. Some alpaca is next to skin soft for sure, and then others isn't. And I didn't know about this one, but I just decided I didn't want to make a cowl. So this is the Sheep Mitten by Jorid Linvik. It came out in the Big Book of Knitted Mittens, 45 Distinctive Scandinavian Patterns, which I gifted to a friend for her birthday a few years ago, and then bought that book for myself. It's fingering weight. The pattern is written in English and in Norwegian. It came out, there's no date on here. Well, it doesn't matter. 30 stitches to 4 inches, stranded stockinette stitch. And then you do the front of the sheep and the back of the sheep. And then you can hold them up, and if you do it right, which there were some comments on there that people flipped the mitten so that it wasn't 2 heads on the front and the 2 rears on the back, that they flipped the chart for the mitten. But yeah, I just thought they were so cute, right? And then they're lined, so picked up at the wrist and lined up, so they're double thickness on them, just picked up. And then another mitten knit the other way. Just one of my favorite things I ever learned in a class was to knit 2 mittens. And I don't know if anyone has ever done that technique for socks, but I'm putting it out there that it's my idea. So I'm going to knit a sock, a stockinette sock, and then pick up and knit another sock on the inside with a really soft luxury fiber for like a slipper at some point in my next, whenever, my next design life, when I decide, when I get on it. But you could knit the outer with a DK or worsted like a slipper, and then pick up and knit the inner with like a alpaca or a mohair or something that would be just super soft to stick your feet into, right? And then it would felt over time. Anyway, I've never seen it. If it's out there already, tell me. But I have never seen. I've seen it in mittens, but not in socks. Super fun. My daughter texted me right before Mother's Day and said, "Hey Mom, what do you want for Mother's Day?" And I said, "I have everything, I want a tree in the backyard because our weeping willow died, and I want a new weeping willow, and I want Dad to put a little picket fence out in the backyard, and I have all these things." But I said, honestly, I could use another pair of Birkenstocks because that's all I can wear right now. So I have 2 tennis shoe pairs, and I have 2 Birkenstock sandals, and 3. One of them is a slipper, was like fleece lined slipper sandal, but I wouldn't wear it outside. Anyway, so that's what I can wear. And so I said, I went and found a pair of orange Birkenstock sandals, but they're suede, and so they're real flimsy, but they are bright. And so I sent her a picture kind of as a joke. I was like, orange Birkenstocks? And then I said, and then there is a kit at B Woolen for this scarf that I didn't buy, that I do not need, because the kit was like $100. And I didn't buy it because I don't need it, but it's beautiful. I'll send you a picture. So I sent her a picture of those 2 things. And then she texted her dad and said, "Dad, buy these 2 things for Mom." because she doesn't have any money. So she was trying to take care of the Mother's Day, but, and so for Mother's Day, neither item came, but then a Birkenstock box came on the front step and it was laying on the kitchen table and he goes, "Oh, that's yours." And I was like, so romantic. He's a good man. He did the thing. She sent him the links. He opened them. He paid. He sent them to me. But I got this silk paca, which is Malabrigo silk paca. I got this kit to make this Serle scarf, which is a scarf. And when I first looked at it, they had kits and they had like 10 skeins of yarn in the kit. And it's this long tube that you knit in the round so you can do color work samplers. There will be a picture. But I was like, there's no way that's like lace weight yarn, silk paca. Like, there's no way. It's beautiful, super soft, but everything was knit. The background colorway was either this light gray or this real taupe color, which the colorways were bright, but the main color was too neutral for me. And so I thought, if I'm ever going to do it, I'm going to get a cream to make a pop and buy the brightest colors I can. So I had put together a bunch of yarns online and picked different colors. I love doing that. I love sitting and looking what yarns do I have or what can I put together to make that for. And so I got this cream yarn and these 5 colors to make. I think I got an extra color, which would be possible to make that silk paca scarf with, but it's lovely. The thing is, you hold it double. You hold the yarn double. So it takes more yarn, but it would probably be easier to use stash yarn if you just went up and used like a heavy fingering, because that's really more like what it is. I'll probably even almost to a sport weight. I didn't look at the gauge, but so now I got this kit that I didn't need and don't have time to knit, like, because I want to knit summer sweaters right now. That's all I want to knit, summer sweaters. The derecho in that red and white tweed, and I don't have enough. I have tons of fall, winter, early spring, but I need more summer sweaters. So anyway, that'll be fur. But I thought I would share it with all of you because it is a beautiful kit. It is lovely. Maybe we could knit that together next fall, starting next fall. Okay, then I want to share some things I saw on the internet. I bought 2 of these at Stephen B. when I was there. I went down, and they have these pouches, these clear pouches for $8 at the shop, and they have them in all the colors. It's got this great zipper, and it would be a wonderful notions pouch, right? It's not hard, hard plastic, but eventually it's probably crackable plastic. But I put all my stuff in my purse in it. So I carry a comb, and I carry a Vaseline, and I carry some ibuprofen, and I have a phone charger and some Kleenex. And so I stuck all of that in there, and I can see what's in here, and it's working perfect. It's lovely. So, and that one was more clear, light kind of pinkish gold. But then when I went back, I was like, well, I need the one that looks kind of orange. It's probably red, but it looks kind of orange. So I thought, well, I'm going to share that with all of you because it's on his website. He's got a rainbow of colors, got a little handle. And so it would be a perfect thing to carry a sock or hat project in. 1 skein of yarn and your little project in your purse, or to keep in your car if you have car knitting, because then you would, when you looked in it, you would know what was in there. So I thought that was kind of, I love a clear bag. I love a bag that shows me what's on the inside. I've said before, I have enough project bags. I've been gifted them through the years. I've purchased them. They've been sent to me because of the podcast. So I usually have enough bags so that I can match the bag to whatever's in the knit and the project. So if the project is orange, I will put it in an orange bag. If the project is color work, I'll put it in a bright colored bag so that it gives my brain an idea of what's in the bag without having to open it up. But I thought these were awesome. So yeah, $8. It's a nice little bag. And then I bought a shirt. Oh, I didn't bring it. Should I go get it? I should probably go get it. I'm just going to put a picture up. So I bought this, I saw this knitting shirt on Amazon. I bought it for a friend for her birthday too. And it's got 4 little knitting sheep in really bright colors. And they have it in a t-shirt and they have it in a baseball shirt. And so I'll put that up on the screen here, but it's really cute. And I ordered the extra large and it fits, but it's not oversized. And some extra larges on me, some things that are extra large are oversized because I'm buxom, and some things aren't, right? And I would say that this isn't oversized. It's more fitted extra large. So I probably would go up a size for people. I didn't know what size to order for my friend. And but I probably ordered a size bigger because I figured, you know, it can be just a sloppy t-shirt, whatever, for her birthday. I was just looking for something cute, fun, whatever. But yeah, they had, yeah, that was a fun find. So I wore that the other day. Oh, I should just wear it on the podcast. I never even thought of that. Okay, I have a teaching schedule. A new teaching schedule. I'm so excited. I am going to be teaching. Stephen B called and they set up 3 events for me to teach. 1 virtual and 2 in the shop. So you can come and join me. At Stephen B, I'm teaching in June on the 26th of June in person. That is a Sunday afternoon from 1 to 2:30, fixing mistakes. So if you are a advanced beginner knitter, but just don't know how to fix mistakes, I wrote the class and tested it on my library knitters, where we learned how to drop down and pick back up stitches. We learned how to make a knit a purl a knit, to pick up to swap a cable, to go from right leaning to left leaning, to pick up an edge stitch. I think there are 16 fixes in that class. And so that is one of the in-person classes. And then I'm teaching online, the first class. I'm going to do my shawl class virtually. So I'm going to be teaching at their shop, and it's usually a 3-hour class, but we're going to make it a 2-hour class because 3 hours on Zoom would be a lot. So I will be at the shop, but you will be on Zoom. So you can join me on June 15th from 5:30 to 7:30 Central Standard Time. And it's my 50 Shades of Shawls class where I show 50, but I'll probably show 40 shawls in class, because now I do 60 and it does get to be too much. But I have to fill 3 hours sometimes when I go to events, so I made it longer. But it is how to wear the shawls you're not wearing, how to style them, how to connect them in ways to make them more wearable, how to use closures on them. I haven't taught it in a little while, and so I'm excited because I have a whole bag full of different closures for shawls, and then I go through and show different types of shawls. So you can sign up for that class on Stephen B's website. It's under classes. I will have links in my show notes so that it will link you right to his classes and workshops page, and then you can sign up. There is a limit for the in-store classes for how many people that can come, but online I don't think we put a limit on it. So everybody should be able to get in, and usually you know there's a fee you have to pay me. They pay me and they pay themselves, right? Because they're going to have a tech person on standby to help with people who might have trouble on Zoom or the connection or whatever, so they're paying that person. So there is a cost for these classes. And then I am teaching in July at Stephen B. In person, I'm teaching my sweater class. So that will be on the 13th of July, and I will have all the sweaters in person. That is an in-person class. It does have a try-it-on component. You can take any of my sweaters and try them on, take pictures of them. And so that will be also a 2-hour class. So I'll be eliminating some of the sweaters that I talk about in that class too, to get it done in 2 hours. So it'll probably run long. But that should be super fun. Then that next weekend in July on the 15th and the 16th, B Woolen has hired me, and they're going to have a lock-in. And so a lock-in for them is come on Friday night and have a food and knitting and a program and then come back on Saturday. You don't stay there. They call it a lock-in, but it's a Friday, Saturday combined thing. So I'm going to be doing a Ravelry, a 1-hour thing on how to better use Ravelry, some tips and tricks of things that you don't know you can do on Ravelry. And then I'm also going to do a workshop on Saturday. I think I'm doing shawls. I think so. I don't have a contract for that yet, but I'll be getting one. So that's the 15th and 16th of July in person in Champlin, Minnesota at B Woolen. Then I am teaching in South Dakota in September. So if you are a Iowa, Minnesota, South Dakota, North Dakota person that watches the podcast, I am doing a whole weekend of teaching in September in Watertown, South Dakota with their knitting guild. So it is the 16th, 17th, and 18th of September. I am teaching sweaters, shawls, fixer-upper, skeins to skeins. I'm teaching Friday night, Saturday morning, Saturday afternoon, Sunday. So there's all kinds of options to come to Watertown. The gal who's running the event has a brand new Airbnb that they just bought and they're refurbishing it. So you could get in touch with her about staying in her Airbnb that she and her husband just bought. I'm staying at the local hotel, I think. Holiday Inn, maybe? I can't remember. Anyway, that's not till September 16, 17, 18. And then in November, I'm going to Ohio and I'm doing the Holiday Escape, which is sponsored by the 2 yarn stores. We are going to be in Columbus, but not Columbus. Let me look. Skeins to Skeins on Friday night and 50 Shades of Shawls on Saturday. I'm staying in an old hotel, Mills, something Yellow Stream Mills. You guys, I will promise to post it on Instagram. I just can't get to my folders. I didn't even think about recording the podcast today, and my stuff is stacked. I would have to open the boxes to see, but it's not till November. But if you're in Ohio, I really want to see people from that area because that's going to be a really fun weekend. That's a Friday and Saturday. And we're staying at a historic hotel, Old Yellow Mills. Sorry, you guys. It's not in my phone. I just looked. Anyway, I will be talking about it again in the future. But people are starting to call and say, hey, are you available? I do think that maybe my friend in Michigan, the Yarn Store Michigan. So I should send her an email because we chatted on Facebook. So yeah, I'm getting hired. Lots of gigs to do some teaching. And I know people often say, are you ever going to come to my part of the country? So if you have a local yarn store, or if you have a knitting event in your area, please tell them my name. Please give them my card. Please call me, email me, let me know. I will reach out to them if you want me to come. I would love to go to some of your local yarn stores and teach, especially if you have more than one. If you have a local yarn store or an event, just let me know. Or if you want to put on your own event, right? You don't have a local yarn store and you want to put on an event and hire a teacher, and we can do it. It's my favorite thing to do is teach knitting. I can design knitting patterns. I have tons of ideas, but you're not going to make any money selling $6 knitting patterns, and it is a lot of headache. Can I just say there's a lot of headache in writing knitting patterns. So the teaching stuff is just fills me up. Okay. Anything else? Yes. Cori stories. At my knitting group last Thursday, my friend brought pictures of baby owl in a tree. So the lot next door to her house was being torn. The trees were being torn down to build a home. And the men who came to tear down, to take out 2 of the big trees in the backyard, saw that there was baby owls in this tree. So they lifted them out with gloves and cut the tree off, and then saved the chunk of the tree and set it in the back of the lot and put the baby owls back in that part of the tree. And then they called the wildlife people center, whatever. And she got pictures, and then they came and relocated locally these baby owls, and the mama found them. Mama found the baby owls. Oh my gosh. So I asked her if she would send me the pictures so that we could see these baby owls in this tree stump that, and you know, the tree had a big hole in it, so it's probably rotten. I don't even know what, you know, I don't know all the details, but what a story, right? And then to have the neighbor take pictures and share and say, these 3 baby owls in the tree, how many chances do you get to see, you know, 3 baby owls in someone's backyard? But then the wildlife people came and relocated the stump with the owls, and then they had all the gear. It seemed like they did it, and then the mama found the owls. And they weren't tiny, so they probably maybe could have survived on their own. I don't know if they'd been taught how to hunt. I don't know enough, but wow, that was really... So then I just want to tell you a little bit about what's going on with my mom and why I had to go to Sioux Falls. So I know most of you, I told you that my mom got in a car accident in March, and you know, she was hit on the rear side, and it pushed her up the curb and across the sidewalk into a tree, and her whole left side of her body was bruised, just black and blue, and big hard knots in her leg. She's just been in a lot of pain, and you know that my mom has kind of degenerative fascia, so she's had a lot of orthopedic surgeries throughout her life and back fusions and stuff. And you know, otherwise mom is healthy, but she has these issues, and her leg just was not getting better. She went back into her doctor, and he said, I'm just not worried about it. It's gonna take time. And so then, you know, she was like, okay, so she'd go back home. And eventually in the last week, 2 weeks, she has not been able to lift that leg or get out of bed or get in, you know, in and out. She cannot lift it, and the pain has gotten really bad. And so she finally went in. My dad took her into like urgent care. I don't know, they called it critical care or something. And the guy there was just like the doctor, Patrick. She's calling him by his first name, my mom. Patrick was just wonderful. He was very concerned about me, and he scheduled an MRI, which is what I wanted, because they did an x-ray after the accident and nothing was broken. But then, you know, 5 weeks later, mom can't walk. She's having terrible pain. It's not getting any better. So this Patrick, Dr. Patrick, let's call him, scheduled an MRI, which she had last Monday, and she tore her iliopsoas muscle. It's spelled iliopsoas, but there's no P. A friend told me, don't pronounce the P. But it's the major muscle that runs all the way down your leg and up to your hip, and it's what controls your lift. And she cannot lift without excruciating pain. They're not sleeping, mom and dad. She said, I have to keep getting your father up at night. We can't sleep. We're not sleeping. Then that's when I got worried, because you can't heal if you're not sleeping, right? And so I said, okay, look at my calendar. Look, Ross is leaving. Cody could go to daycare. The kids are in town in case something happens with Cody. So I had that Zoom scheduled, and I had a haircut and color, which so I was like, I can go on Friday afternoon. Mom, I can come. And she tore it. And then he said, I'm going to send you to a special physical therapist, and then they're going to talk to you about what you can do and can't do and what we can do about this. And if they think that it's so bad, then we'll send you to an orthopedic surgeon. But for now, I'm going to send you, because he was just a one-time visit kind of guy. And so tomorrow is her appointment with this physical therapy, occupational therapy building, something where they're going to go and see what she's done. I didn't see the MRI or talk to the doctor or anything, but he thinks it can heal. But at least she knows, right? Like that's all Mom said. At least now I know what's going on. So I don't know if she had torn it, if it had a little tear and then in the accident it tore more, or if it tore a little bit in the accident and then she was trying to walk and do things and it continued to tear. I don't know what happened here, but I needed to go. I needed to go see what was going on. And she, you know, she's just in a lot of pain, like screaming pain. When they did the MRI, the nurses lift her legs into the bed and she screamed and they were like, oh, you know, and she said, I told you that we have to move both legs together and that it is, you know, terrible pain. And anyway, so I went home. Figured out a way that I could help. So she's been walking with a cane and she can walk okay, but when she sits down, she cannot lift her leg up to put a sock on or to take her pants off or like all those things. And she wanted to be able to get in the car so she sits and then to swing her leg over, she couldn't do it. Dad tried to help. That made it worse. I was there. And then I said to her, she said, if someone else can lift it slowly and I can control it, it's not so bad. And I said, okay, then you need to be able to lift it. So she turned her cane around upside down. So the hook part was on the bottom. And when she sits on the edge of the car, she's so short like me that she could put the cane underneath her foot and she could hold the cane and she could lift it up. And then we laid the seat back and then she could just lay back and slowly lift her leg up high enough to clear the car. And then I get in the seat behind her and I could lift the thing and the seat would sit her up. And it was slow going, but we got better and better at it. We did it several times. And then she wanted to go to Target. Her great-granddaughter was having a birthday on Saturday and I wanted to get a gift and a card anyway. And so I said, we can do it. But because the walking isn't the problem, it was the getting in and out of the car and that lifting and shifting and moving. And so by the time I left, we'd gotten her in and out of the car like 6 times and like practiced. And she has enough arm strength to lift that leg. And hopefully when she goes tomorrow, that they will help her figure out how to do the things that she needs to do, right? She needs some devices, assistive devices, to get the pants off, because she doesn't want. I'm shocked that my dad has been able to do it and help her, and she's in so much pain. You hate seeing your parents in pain, right? Whatever. So yeah, went to breakfast on Saturday morning and saw my Aunt Cindy, which was lovely. Her husband died a number of years ago, and so she's alone. And so I got to see her, and she was always my favorite aunt growing up because she's my only aunt. But she was young aunt, and I loved seeing her. And then I texted my brothers and my sister-in-laws and said, hey, Mom and Dad thought that maybe if we went to Pizza Ranch, some of the younger kids would come because they have like an arcade and whatever. So I said Pizza Ranch at 6:15, and everyone showed up, which was amazing. My brother and his wife, hi Jeff and Sherry, that was so nice of you. Because like when I come to town, I don't expect everybody to just like drop everything. Like if they have stuff going on, sometimes I don't see anybody because I just see Mom and Dad and then I go back, and I've never lived there, so I've never been a part of like all the things when they get together. So, but when I reach out lately, people have been showing up, which is like super nice because I do love seeing them. And so then my other brother and his wife and their daughter came, and then my niece and nephew came with the little girls, and it was her 7th birthday. I was shocked that they came, right? Because it's her 7th birthday. They're doing their own thing, but then they came late, and so we got to see everybody at Pizza Ranch, which is a buffet of all the different pizzas, then a whole buffet of salad bar, then a whole buffet of chicken, fried chicken, which is delicious, and mashed potatoes and potato wedges, and and then dessert pizzas. So it was lovely. And everybody could come. We all sat at a huge table and everybody could get what they wanted. And so I got to see yeah, both my brothers and their wives. I love those women. We've always gotten along, and I mean, usually when I go to town, we go to lunch with the women, and yeah, I was always really close to my brother, Jeff, who was younger than me. I drove him a lot when I was growing up because he was 7 years younger, and so we hung out. But then I moved away. I'm the only one in all of the family. Well, I have a cousin, but everyone else still lives there. So I don't get, I'm so fortunate in my life, right, that I can drive to Sioux Falls and see my family, right? It's not, I don't live across the country. Well, I did for a while when I lived in Virginia, but so I mean, I'm not complaining. I'm super fortunate, but I wasn't there for my nieces and nephew ball games and their recitals and their, like, I've never gotten to go to any of that stuff. So you feel left out, right? You feel like I'm the only one that lives far away. And I mean, I've always been super close to my mom, but she came for years. They would come here, but they just can't. They came at Easter and they said it was too much when they got home. And that's right after then is kind of when mom's leg really started bothering her too. So, okay, way too much personal information. I might edit some of that out because you don't need to know it all. But I did go home. I spent the weekend. I drove back yesterday afternoon, and then the ladies came to pick up the rugs, and then the lady came to pick up the furniture, and we had to ask the neighbor guy to come help get the big desk and stuff out, and we had to clear out the office, so it's been a little whirlwind around here, just getting that all done and getting organized. We're getting new garage doors. We have an extra wide garage door, but when this house was built, they put on a regular garage door lifter and stuff, and it's broken twice because it's not the right piece of equipment for the job, Cori. I could care less if I get a new garage door, but it has broken, and they're not well insulated, and so Ross spends so much time out there. So we decided, he said, while I'm still working, before we retire, we need to do all the things that we would want to do to make this house, perfect and livable for us and with the things we want. And I said, well, we need more storage in the office for yarn. And he's like, you're right, we do. There's just not enough space in there for the file cabinets and the yarn. So yeah, and the desk was in rough shape. Well, I mean, perfectly. The lady was going to finish it. She was ecstatic. I just don't do that stuff, right, where you sand down and restain and varnish and whatever. Like, I don't know how to. I mean, I suppose I could learn, but it's not my thing. So, and we have a friend who knew a guy who builds custom cabinetry. So, friend of a friend, and then Marty came out and did us right. So that's been lovely. I think that's all I have today then. I told my little story. I am knitting on I was going to share that. I'll share it next time. I'm going to write myself a note. I am knitting on the Lansbury cardigan, and it had that really interesting shoulder seam construction, and I visually thought that my short rows were supposed to be going around the shoulder, and I had it in my head that was how it was supposed to be. And when I was knitting, I had 8 stitch markers on. I think I told you guys this, and I just couldn't figure it out. I could not wrap my head around, and I should have just knit the pattern. But it was written in a paragraph, all the short rows in a paragraph, and it was just hard to follow, which is why I love checklist patterns, but it was just hard to follow. And my friend Stacy came for the weekend, and she's like, and she just knit it. And it took her 20 minutes. She's like, Cori, this is how it is. And so I will share that with you because the construction of that is so interesting, and I'm ready to split for the arms last week, and I didn't. I wanted to try it on and hold it up to another sweater, and in the process of cleaning the basement and just moving everything, we had luggage to give away and stuff. I hang some of my summer stuff in the basement, and then my winter stuff goes down. We have little bars with canvas zipper front things, 2 of them that hang down there. And I wanted to get out my clothes, so we hauled up my summer clothes and took winter clothes down, and then I sorted clothes during that process. So just set the Lansbury aside a little bit because I wanted to measure to make sure that it was a good spot for me, because it's right, you know, under your arm. When you break for under your arm, that you got to check to make sure that your bust is big enough at that point, right? And so if your bust is still up where your underarm is, sorry, I thought it, and then I thought don't say it, and then I thought just say it. So I said it. So if you have a supportive undergarment on, then that's when you need to try it on and make sure that you're not going to be pulling across your cardigan front. So anyway, I haven't done that, and the construction of that sweater was so interesting, and I didn't know I was making little inserts in the front and the back. It's fascinating, and I love that I learned how. Well, I love that Stacy did it and then showed me how, so that now I could do the other side, and I got it going, and the stripes are going fine. But anyway, until next time, keep your fork, waddle on, buy the gravy. You'll never regret ripping back. No green bananas. Don't complain with your mouth full. Did I get them all? I hope so. Love you all. Thanks for joining me. Thanks for commenting. I love reading comments from all of you and tell me about where you're at and whether or not spring has sprung. It has sprung here and everything's green and it's glorious, and that we've had beautiful few days of weather here. Come in for your hug. I love you all. Oh, I wish I could see some of you and meet some of you in person, but maybe if I do some more teaching someday. Come on the Zoom. I will probably be doing a Zoom the week after Memorial Day. I will post it. I will talk about it on the next podcast. So 2 weeks from now, I would assume that I will be doing another Zoom, because I'll do one on Memorial Day, and then I'll do another Zoom for the knit-along. Join the knit-along. Let me know if there's anything I can do to answer questions. See you next time. Bye.